Today's guests say they are not too old or too young to do what they want to do. Now, while others close to them may say, no way. Now, Elaine says she's at the end of her rope because her 13-year-old daughter feels she is mature enough to have sex and even have a baby.
My 13-year-old daughter, Danielle, is doing things promiscuously with boys I don't think she should.
I started having sex when I was 12. I think I'm old enough and mature enough to make my decisions about sex.
Recently, Danielle asked me if I would buy condoms for her. I just said to her, if you think I'm going to condone a 13-year-old girl having sex and buy condoms, I'm not.
I think my mom should help me get birth control because I won't stop having sex.
I started finding notes from Danielle's friends that asked, did you get any last night? Or I'm jealous, I didn't. And when I confronted Danielle, she said it wasn't her note. What is this?
It's not mine. A lot of girls my age have sex because the boys like you a lot better and you're a lot more popular.
I have caught Danielle with 2 very noticeable hickeys on her neck.
When my mom noticed the hickeys, she kind of flipped out on me, grounded me for 2 weeks.
Both times she had been spending the night with her sister Jennifer. Jennifer is 22. She has 2 children, is expecting her 3rd one, and all 3 babies have different fathers. I'm scared to death that Danielle is going to follow in Jennifer's footsteps.
If I were to get pregnant right now, I feel that I could take care of the child. I would get a job at the zoo working at the concession stand or something.
I love my children, and I want the best for Danielle. I don't want her to mess up her life. If she would get pregnant at 13 years old, what kind of future would she have?
I really can't understand why my mom is so protective of me. The 2 guys that I slept with, when I asked them what would they do if I got pregnant, they both told me that they would stay with me and help me raise the kid.
Dr. Phil, how can I convince my daughter that at 13 years old she's just too young to be having sex?
Well, Elaine, are you just flabbergasted at the logic you're hearing?
Absolutely. I don't understand what she's thinking. 13 years old is just too young to make those kind of decisions. She's just, I don't know where she gets it from.
Okay, and when you hear her say, if a boy were to get me pregnant, he would help out, he would take care of it, and I could get a job at the concession stand at the zoo, and we would be fine. What's your reaction to that?
Well, her 22-year-old sister has 2 children, another one on the way, 3 different fathers, and I haven't seen any of them in, well, I'm not even sure who the second one is. No help. She gets no help. They've never stayed. They've never been there for her. They've never been there when she delivered or helped take care of these children.
Okay, and now you're rolling your eyes while she's saying that. Tell me what you're thinking.
Because they won't be there because of her. Because they're scared of her. They're scared of her.
Okay, now tell me why you wanted to be here today. Because you wanted to be here and you wanted to talk about all this, right?
Yeah. Because, like, she's overprotective of me. But when, like, she's at her boyfriend's house or whatever, she's not really worried about what we're doing.
Okay. But you think that she's just out of touch, a party pooper, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that Danielle is sexually active now?
Yes, I believe that she's having sex.
Okay. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. It's true, and you're 13, right?
Yeah.
But you started having sex when you were 12?
Yes.
Okay. Now, and I want to be very clear about this. This is not some big revelation at your school or in your town, right? I mean, everybody knows this. You have a group of friends, and you all do this. You say everybody knows it except some of the parents who are asleep at the switch, right?
Yeah, like all of us want our parents like to wake up and realize that we're not doing no matter what they say.
Okay.
And that they need to wake up and like realize that it's gonna happen it's happening all over.
So people at school know this, teachers know it, some of the principals know. I mean, people know this. They don't condone it, but they know this. So we're talking about here, this isn't some big revelation back at home. You're not going to go back home and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that about you.
No, they're all going to be like, I'm glad you told everybody that it happens and everywhere you go.
Uh-huh. Is it possible that when you say that some 15-year-old guy is going to step up and take care of you and your baby, that you're just being naive, you're just being gullible, you're just wrong, that you don't really know what you're talking about?
Most of the time, I believe that they would stay there.
Okay, you've had sex at your sister's house, right?
Yeah.
And you've had sex at a hotel.
Yeah.
And the guy that you had sex with at a hotel is currently in jail for a drug deal gone bad.
Yeah.
Right? So his ability to help you or take care of you were you to get pregnant, his ability is just zero, correct?
Yeah.
And do you know how much formula for a baby costs per month?
Like $60? I don't know.
And how about diapers?
That's a lot. Like 40?
Uh-huh. And how about doctor's visits? How much do they cost?
A lot.
And how about clothes for the baby and infant seats and cribs and all of that stuff? You're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. They pay pretty good at the zoo?
Yeah, they actually do.
So what are they going to pay at the zoo? $4 an hour? $5 an hour?
$6.50.
$6.50 an hour. So after taxes, that's about $4 an hour. And so if you're working 20 hours a week, do the math. You're not quite going to get there, reckon?
No.
But I mean, think about that. There's no possible way that you have calculated this in any fashion whatsoever. All right, now, here's the thing. The question is, what should a mom do when her teenager asks her to buy birth control, says, I'm going to have sex whether you like it or whether you don't, so you just as well quit talking because I'm going to do what I want to do. We'll talk about that when we come back.
The latest research shows every year nearly 1 million teenage girls in America become pregnant. Teen pregnancy rates are higher in the United States than any other developed country. 13% of all U.S. birth mothers are still in their teens. Half of all sexually transmitted diseases in the country come from teens and young adults.
We're talking about what age is too young to have sex. Now, Elaine says her 13-year-old daughter, Danielle, is far too young to have sex. Now she's worried that Danielle's becoming really into this and thinking it's okay and believing that she can predict the consequences of her actions. Elaine doesn't want to raise possible babies at her age of 48. You don't want to start over again, notwithstanding what Carolyn is doing at 55.
No, I have 5 children, and I've been a mother for 28 years. It might sound selfish, but I'm ready to just have time for me.
Okay, well, let me ask you something about you. Where do you think this value system, this level of logic comes from? Where do you think Danielle came up with this?
Well, I think Danielle has watched her sister, who's 22, and I think Danielle thinks it's an acceptable lifestyle. I think it's very prevalent in our schools, and I think that young teenagers are thinking it's okay to be that promiscuous.
Listen, I'm a strong believer that in the absence of real leadership, children, and you are a child, will follow virtually anybody with a plan.
Absolutely.
And you have one daughter that went this direction. Now you've got another daughter that goes this direction. And I want to ask you about some of the things that you've said. So I'm putting you in the hot seat here, and I intend to. Have you been in denial about her sexual behavior?
I find it very hard to accept it. I mean, I think she's just a child still, and I just have trouble believing that she would do that to herself.
But she's telling you now that she is. Not once, not twice, but with 5 different people so far, correct? Okay. Does that bring down the veil of confusion?
Absolutely. It makes me very sad.
But you can't change what you don't acknowledge. I mean, it's like you're sitting in the den and the back bedroom's just raging on fire and you just shut the door. I don't want to deal with it.
That's not true. I have tried to talk to her on several occasions. I have tried to discuss being too young, you know, what could lead to if you get pregnant at that age, or worse, come up with a sexually transmitted disease or any of those possibilities.
Okay, but you said, and I quote, that sometimes in dealing with Danielle, it just requires more fight than I have. You also said that when I'm trying to get her out of bed to go to school, quote, I've found that rather than fight her, it's easier to just leave her and let her sleep. And when she asked you to buy condoms, you said no, but you didn't sit down and talk to her about sex at that point, correct? By your own description.
Right. When I did try to talk to her, she shuts you out. She goes to her room, and she will carry on like a 2-year-old with temper tantrums and attitude. And then you go, how do you talk to them at that point? How do you get them to understand what you're trying to tell them?
You do it until. What are you saying? Is if she is not receptive, that you just say, well, she's just not going to listen, so I'm going to go do something else? She says that the only time that you really engage with her is when she's in trouble. Did I state that correctly?
Sometimes it just gets hard, especially when she shuts you out and doesn't want to listen to you. I had open heart surgery, and last year more than once I had to drag her out of bed. My daughter-in-law helped me physically dress her to get her to school. I mean, that doesn't appeal to me every day.
Now, do you frequently work until 9 o'clock at night?
Not frequently, but my job requires late hours and meetings after normal hours.
Okay, so you commonly are home much later than 4, 5, 6 o'clock, correct?
Yes.
So she's there alone, unsupervised, and certainly not having any dialogue when you're gone. And listen, I'm not saying that it's easy, only that it's necessary. So I'm going to take a break, and we're going to talk some more about this. We're going to talk about the scary trend. We've been talking about what's too young to be having sex. What would happen if you valued yourself, your body, your person, your being, your spirit, everything that is Danielle, if you valued it such that you would look at some guy and say, you know what? You don't have anything to offer me. What you have to offer me is a potential pregnancy, a potential disease, talking behind my back. You don't really have anything to offer me, and I value myself more than that. I'm not going to do that not because I think it's morally wrong or you're a bad person. I just do it because I value me more than to allow someone to use me in hopes that they might like me. Have you ever had that conversation with yourself?
No.
What do you think about when you hear me say that?
Nothing really.
I mean, does that stimulate any thinking in you at all that maybe you're being used and that you should love yourself more than that?
A little bit.
Have you had that conversation with her?
I've tried. I have 3 sons.
You're shaking your head no.
She's never tried.
I have 3 sons and 2 daughters. My oldest son is 28 years old, met his first girlfriend at 16, dated her for 11 years, they got married, and have had their first child, and they're 28 years old.
Gotcha. We're talking about your daughter.
I understand that. I've raised them all the same. I have had the same conversations, yet my boys are totally different than the girls.
But Elaine, the husband is gone from the home. Listen, he's not there, right?
But he's never been there. He's never been part of their life.
Now, come on. Dial in with me here. There is no male figure in your daughter's lives.
Right.
There's no strong male figure and presence. Do you suppose then that there is a deficit, that there is a hunger for male attention, male contact, male acceptance? Do you suppose that if Dad's not there, and therefore that there's no connection, that she might seek that somewhere else and be vulnerable to some male telling her what she wishes she could hear from her father? You're good, I love you, you're interesting, I'm going to pay attention with you, I'm going to spend time with you. Do you suppose she's vulnerable because of that, whereas your sons may not be quite in the same boat?
Yes, I understand that.
Okay, so don't just say, well, my boys are fine, and I'm doing the same thing as my boys I am with my girls, so it must be her because the boys are fine. I mean, you can't follow that logic. You can't work the hours you're working. Look, there is no reality, only perception. She's telling you that it's her perception. You don't plug in. You don't talk to her about these things. You only attend to her when she's in trouble. You're gone to work. You're not there. You're not available. She's here saying that to you. Whether you believe it from your point of view or not, you have to acknowledge that she's at least giving that point of view a voice. You can say it's just she's trying to deflect blame, she's trying to play the victim, whatever. But it's interesting that she chose that theme, don't you think?
Well, I personally, and I think most of my family would agree, that Danielle and Jenny probably get more of my attention than any one of my boys. More.
This is not a foot race with the boys.
I understand that, but it's not that I don't give her attention. It's not that I don't try to talk to her. She's been suspended from school 3 times this year. She's in school suspension. I have tried to talk to the counselors. Do I not understand there's a problem? I do understand where there's a problem. I don't know what to do to fix it. I can't make their dad be part of their life. I've tried.
The only person you can control is you. And I think you need to sit down and have not fights, not just when she's in trouble and you're problem solving. I think you need to sit down without a crisis agenda and have some ongoing conversations. And I think you don't know where to start. I think there are some problems with that. If I get you some help, a professional in your town, on the ground in your town, to help broker something here, a dialogue, some